Welcome today to our weekly webinar. My name is Alicia. I'm a partner at Fourlane, and today's webinar is going to be about property accounting. I have three panelists with me today, and I'm super excited about them joining me. I'd like to go ahead and introduce first Cynthia. She is our Fourlane CFO, and I've got two other partners with me, Kaylin Leland and Lori Walsh. I want to talk some business first, and I just want to remind everyone, if you've missed any of our previous videos, you can always find them on our YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Fourlane. Remember, you can subscribe so you can get those first notifications when new videos come out. You can also, as a quick reminder, use these videos as a resource library. Anytime you have a question, anytime you want to find that topic and identify, like the solve, you can go back through those videos at any point in time, even at 2 a.m. if you're working and you need assistance. They will always be there for you. You can also connect to us via our Fourlane Facebook group at Fourlane QuickBooks Enterprise. There's always information in this group chat. There's other professionals. You will be able to get access to us. So definitely go ahead, join that, and check us out. Okay, this is a reminder. You are going to want to participate in our What's New in 2023 webinar. Now, as a reminder, this is a 2-week series. It's going to take place. Our first week is on September the 7th, and then our second is going to be September the 14th. So registration links, they have not come out just yet, but keep an eye out for those. They will be coming out soon. Encouraging you to sign up, to hold the times on your calendars, because this is going to be some really cool stuff so that you can implement internally. I do also want to remind everyone really fast about our Fourlane on-demand support. Just so that you're aware, we do offer this. It is $25 per QuickBooks user per month for up to 5 users. Then it drops to $20 a month per user for 6 users or more. Anytime that you really need that on-demand support, that you feel like, I don't want to have to wait on hold, and you want the same person every single time, right? Or someone that has all the notes and remembers, that is where you can come to us. Always ask your account executive or your partner, whoever you're working with, your consultant, about this information, and we will be more than happy to give you the details. But it has definitely been something that we've been hearing about from our clients, and they are enjoying. All right, so property accounting. What in the world are we getting into today? So I want to talk about property management accounting and really what it is. It lets you see how profit each property is making, right? How profitable are we? It allows you to accurately record your expenses so you can make the most of tax deductions. And it makes it easy to report income and expenses separately for each property, right? It can be things like real estate. It could be different, duplexes, condos, could be all kinds of different things. And our panelists are going to tell us all kinds of stories about it. I always like to say it is similar to job costing, right? And that kind of helps people relate a little bit to something that, you know, they feel like is a more kind of you know, known topic, right? But what I wanted to talk to Kaylin about first, I'm going to go to Kaylin first. And I want to just ask you, you know, we've worked with a ton of clients over the years. Can you give me some examples of some property accounting clients that have kind of come through and you've worked with, and share some stories there with us?
Sure. Well, there's two really big types of clients that I see a lot. The first thing being when I think about property accounting, you know, we have construction. They might be remodeling, they might be flipping a house. So you want to do these job costing on the, you know, quote unquote property level, being okay, this house over at 2000 New River, right? We're redoing the kitchen, right? Or maybe we're, you know, whatever that case may be. You're really doing all of those transactions attached to, in the job costing arena, that property. So then you know, did I bid this correctly? Am I making profit on this job? What's going on, you know, with that property to make sure that we are profitable and moving forward? Okay. The other thing that I think about is larger. Maybe there's a construction commercial client. They might have a contract to build something or to maintain it for a couple of years.
Cool. Cynthia, you got any stories for us?
So many stories. So I've done a lot of property management accounting over the years. I've worked on anywhere from, I'm a solopreneur and have 3 residential homes that I'm leasing out, and I need to track them for my tax purposes, all the way up to here in Connecticut, we have a lot of historical properties. So going all the way through revamping an historical property from the ground up and turning it into luxury condo living. So runs the gamut there, and also working with commercial property clients and that they lease out commercial for business. My favorite was a client who, I say my favorite, it was probably one of the largest projects I worked on, was a client who had not, their property management accountant had not done their triple net lease calculations in more than 5 years.
What?
And so if we don't know what a triple net lease is, it's the common areas, like taking care of the common areas. In the Northeast, think about, we have to plow the parking lots, and we have to remove the snow off the roofs, and we might have security. So the management company covers all of those expenses, and they're supposed to rebill them out to the tenants based on like the square footage of their lease. And their property accountant had not done it in more than 5 years.
Wow.
We had to go back and get baselines. It was a lot of work. They had a lot of properties. So they were a very big commercial property management firm. There was a lot out there.
I mean, that sounds like a huge project. And, you know, so many things can potentially, just by the setup, right, could go wrong, right? And so once we get that setup corrected and you know, or defined and then corrected, right? Then it becomes a lot like more simple, right? We're able to simplify. Well, cool. Those are some great examples and some stories there. So you kind of mentioned something that triggered like the chart of accounts in my head. And so I wanted to ask for some examples. So Lori, I'm going to go to you. What are some examples of chart of accounts, or maybe what I need to ask you is, what's some interesting chart of account structures that you've seen with some property accounting clients?
Well, so having too many chart of accounts is one, right? Thinking that they have to keep up with the costing and stuff based on the chart of accounts as opposed to doing a job. So for instance, having each property listed as a GL account, and then trying to keep up with all of the other things that pertain to each one. Not necessarily, it was just challenging because one, if you got somebody new in, and they were trying to post, things to, plus just creating items for that as well. It was just a lot of manual work for them, and they were having to support what they have as far as numbers go with Excel spreadsheets. So we were able to kind of redefine what they're doing and get them to use the jobs,
Right.
so that they could actually see it that way, and classes. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, here at Fourlane, you can check out our webinars we've done on like chart of accounts and things like that. But we like to say, and I'm going to try to pull this up here, but what we like to say is, in your total accounts, we want to see 200 or less. And so I'm right there with you, Lori. I have had some super interesting chart of accounts where like we're talking in the thousands. And I was like, whoa, slow down, right? Not really wanting to see thousands and thousands of accounts, because that's how they were managing their property. Cynthia, I think we've had a conversation about some stories where like you've seen this as well before, right?
Yes.
Can you tell us some?
Yeah. So both in the instance of like a builder who is, they're doing custom building, there are many different ways to track things in custom building. My favorite way is to set each home that you're building, or each property that you're building, up as a job, and then drive the items so that we can pull a profit and loss by job, so that when we're completed and ready to sell that property, we can make all of our adjusting entries and properly record our revenue and our expenses with the sale. In individual residential property management, as in I have 10 homes, I need to track my 10 homes. Those homes might be under separate LLCs, but they could be disregarded entities that are flowing up to the main entity that is the management company. Like we may have one bank account, and that bank account is paying everything for those homes. So I have seen the chart of accounts in which there's a general ledger account for location A, and then all of the expense accounts you could imagine are subbed under, similar to how you have payroll liabilities on the screen, Alicia. All of that would be location A, and then you'd have my landscaping expense, my whatever repairs and maintenance on the property, my utilities, all of your property expenses would be under that. And then it would be repeated 10 times because we had 10 properties. So we'd have location A, location B, location C, and then that doesn't give us a good way to filter a P&L so that we can get a nice look about how things are.
Right. Well, and I think, that is definitely something we've talked through, like, the insurance and these parent headers, right? Where on our P&L, we want to be able to look at things at a very kind of, like if I collapse at a very high level to see. And if I have the P&L by class or by job, right? And this is a sample file, our rock castle construction. But this sample file is we're able to see by job, right? The net income very, very quickly. And when we've got, chart of accounts where it's just so much detail to see everything, it gets confusing, not only at the P&L reporting level, but for the individuals that are coding things, where do I code these, right? And it can become very tedious and time consuming. So definitely agree. And, I always kind of remind my clients, does it really matter if I spent $1 on water for the office versus $100 in office supplies, right? So we can elevate just a little bit. Kaylin, kind of adding to what Cynthia was saying, what is some really, really I would say the best chart of accounts or ones that impressed you the most? Could you kind of talk to us a little bit about, that setup?
I mean, the ones that impressed me the most are the smallest. Okay, let me extend on that a little bit, because we do see, just like Cynthia said, a lot of people do put in their properties and all of the chart of accounts for each property, things like that. But what impresses me the most is when someone uses the other lists inside of QuickBooks to maybe capture some of that. Maybe their properties are on the class list, or maybe they have different projects set up. So we're using those other fields, those other structures within the QuickBooks file to be able to run the same information, get the same report, but when they run that profit and loss, or when they run that balance sheet, it is small and it is concise. And that impresses me when we either, they have it or we can help them get to that piece. It's a big deal.
Yeah, no, it really is. What about, and I can't remember if someone mentioned it today or just in our conversations that we normally just have, right? But what about property management? So if I'm doing real estate and I've got overhead allocations and things like that, how do we recommend? Does anyone want to take that, Kaylin or Lori?
So overhead allocations, they're very interesting, right? And I really can't talk about overhead allocations without talking about over-under billing, right? Because they're both a way to regulate, and it's really just an accounting system so that you could see your profit and losses for the period, right? So for example, with an overhead allocation, you can take your, administrative payroll, just as an example, or your professional fees, and whatever amount of contracts, whatever amount of jobs are open at the time, take a percentage of that administrative payroll and put it towards that job, right? So now when you are running job costing, it's not only the actual job, it's not the wood to physically, perform that task. You now have a piece of that business in there because it took you X amount of time over in that business to do that job. So it really gets into some really neat, precise job costing.
Absolutely. And kind of, literally you just said the word and now it escaped me. And I do realize I'm blonde, but we are not going to go there. Just kind of talking through good set of books and good reports and things like that, right? What are some true benefits and gains, right? and some potential examples. So if we were to, need to say, a client comes to us and says, I have to have my individual properties managed and net income on every single one, right? And you're talking about these jobs here. How do I really get that out of QuickBooks?
So you mean to be able to run a P&L by job so that you can see the expenses plus the income? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, is that that's where I'm going, right? Is how do we really get the system set up to give us this reporting? Where do we have to start to get our end result?
So when you set up your customer and then the property as a job?
Yeah, so I'm going to walk through that as you are talking, if I can here, get a new one. We're just going to say property.
So Alicia, if I want to make sure I'm hearing what you're asking the panel is, what should our framework look like in order for us to get good reporting out on the other end that is broken down by property? So when we're talking about property accounting and we say jobs, sometimes it's confusing.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's,
Okay.
a lot of our, in QuickBooks, it's hard for people to really understand, well, I don't do job costing, right? And I don't want a P&L by job, right? That's not my business. I manage properties.
Right, so in order to get there from here, if you want to track them by job, if you want to say my properties are going to be my customers and that's how I'm going to track it versus using departments or classes in QuickBooks. So we would have both the customer added in the screen that you're at, but then in order to get a good report out of this type of setup, we have to then set up list items that will be utilized every time we use that customer's name or the property name. And those items, I usually just use other charge items when I do this, or service. Those items would be broken down into, this is my utility item, and it will push, every time we use that item on a transaction, it'll push it to the P&L to the proper expense account.
Yeah.
And then once we start using those items, we're able to pull a P&L by that customer or job. And the items will read exactly what the GL account, it's going to say facilities expense, but we'll be simultaneously doing an overall profit and loss statement for our company at the general ledger level while we are tracking by location in the customer center utilizing the items.
And when we've got a property set up, right, it's easy to identify, if I'm going to be putting in things where, maybe we've got contracts and things like that we need to put in, right? So we've got templates here and they're at this customer or job level, potentially if we need to do subs, different locations or different, maybe it's a condo and we've got building 1, building 2, right? And we could add those as jobs, right? But how do we?
Yeah, so I add the tenants as jobs generally. Is that where you're going?
You can go there. Yep. Thank you.
What I do too.
Yeah. And so when we add a job, right? I mean, you can see, hopefully we're painting the picture, right? That if we needed to see something like a building 1 underneath a property, we have those capabilities, right? And then Cynthia, could you or Lori elaborate a little bit more on the tenants and how we recommend setting those up?
I can take it, Lori. So
Yeah.
if we're going to set the tenant up, you would set it up first name, last name, however you're going to track your names, and they would fall as a sub-job underneath their building. So in that tenant area, you can use, if you go to your little pencil and edit, Alicia, we can use QuickBooks to track certain things that help us keep track of our tenants. So you can go in here and do their email and everything, but under the job info tab, I always like to use this tab to track my lease expiration date. So we can create a report by putting all of our data in here that, you know, name it lease expiration date or whatever, and you can do your start date, your projected end date, and you can actually use your projected end date to do 60 days prior to lease expiration. So you can set yourself up a little reminder. Based on that report, you can pull it at the beginning of every month, get your cadence in place, and be able to set up and get your leases out to get them re-signed so that you're never caught unawares there.
Yeah, you know, you touched on something that we have a question on, right? And one of the questions that we have, which I'm trying to keep up with all the questions as much as I can, but you know, being able to know which property is full and which one is empty for rent. That I think is a great explanation what you just gave on like a solution there. Is that something that you've done with some of your clients before?
Yeah, so you could, so Joe left last week, you end date Joe as a tenant, and you can put a holding place in the system and have a start date, but no projected end date. You can also use your job status type. We can set up a job status, it's pending. This place, I mean, we can't always change all of these names, and I can't remember right now if you can change these in the desktop or not, but we could set up vacant, and then we could carry a vacancy list. Yep, so right there we could change one of those. Instead of pending, we can call it vacant, and we can create a report for vacancies.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I'm glad that we were able to kind of help answer that question. I know that I think the other one was potentially naming some jobs, so I can always follow up with them on that. But yeah, I think, you know, being able to really help our clients see the capabilities in QuickBooks and getting our results, right? They got to start on the very front end. And one of the ways is just setting up these properties and the tenants, and then using the functionality of the system to be able to give us the reporting that we need. So I appreciate everyone joining. I appreciate you experts that we have today. And I just, again, want to remind everyone, we've got a restaurant panel coming up, a law firm that is coming up, CBD industry panel, and accounting terminology. And don't forget that what's new in 2023, September the 7th and September the 14th. Thank you everyone for joining us today.